Okay. That's how we start the podcast always. I got it. I stole it from someone. I don't quite remember. I will give them credit when I remember their name. Who gave me that introduction? I don't quite remember. Morris, do you remember? You record me. I had someone play Disco Baby yesterday in a place where Disco Baby was not supposed to be played. We're going to copyright that sound. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Welcome to yet another episode of the Talk Track podcast, where we real talk, real impact is affected, right? We do this every Sunday at Plot 8B Kabula Road in Jinja. The Barrow House is the unofficial home of the Kara Junkies. The Talk Track is an independent production of the Kara Junkies. It's produced, edited, sound mixed, and shot by Morris, aka Moro Moro, aka Mokono Moja, aka One Man, One Army. And my name is Roy. I've been the host for a while. You can call me Kamada. You can also call me Ogundipe. You can call me Ochawa Giramanyu. You can also call me Nofachi Neviensi. You can also call me Oechiovu. Munywe Echiovu. You'll see why in a few minutes from now. We do not own any of the rights to the music you're going to be hearing playing in the background. Also, all opinions presented by the participants of the Talk Track do not represent any of the entities affiliated with the Talk Track, that is Kara Junkies or the Barrow House. These are perceptions and opinions presented by lived experiences by people who have decided to have open and honest conversations with us. But if you feel that there's something you have learned or you learn when you listen to this podcast or watch this podcast on YouTube, leave it in the comments. We might tell Morris that his shoulder needs to be strapped downwards and not up like that. That is also very useful information. Or you won't see Morris. Morris, today I'm going to record you. They need to see why I keep calling you Mukono Moja. Anyway, Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Let's start from there. Elon Musk and Donald Trump. I don't know if you guys have been following it. It's one of the most recent pieces of news. They fell out too soon, like Morris has said. They fell out too soon. They took us on a wild ride. It was 3 months. That was a proper honeymoon phase. Me, I thought these guys were going to stay together until the end of the month's term. We're 3 months into the term, maybe 4 months in, and Elon and Trump are fighting, and we are getting new information. But you see, people are petty. People are petty. And relationships drive us crazy. Because why is Elon Musk now telling us that his former best friend, for those of you who know about the Epstein files, you know how big of an accusation that is when someone just puts it out there. Oh, your name was in the Epstein files and that's why they've not been uploaded. Because why? Why? No, if you fell out, you fell out. Don't throw your friend under the bus. No one wants to know of his bad manners. You're just putting a man's bad manners out there. I don't know. But then also another thing that stood out for me this week, Joshua Baraka. Joshua Baraka said that every time you go to party, you're putting your life in danger. He said every time you go to party, you're putting your life in danger. How? He said because you're always surrounded by drunkards and there is so much noise that even if someone had you shouting, they'd think you're just having a good time. You can die. There's 50 drunkards in 1 square meter. That's how fights start. You're 50 drunkards in 1 square meter and then someone steps on you. And then you remember that one time in primary school when someone stepped on you and didn't say sorry. And you take out all your stress from primary school on that one drunkard. He stepped on my shoe, even had the audacity to turn and look at me. Why people have been stepping on me from way back. I like Baraka. He had a sit down on a podcast called IMO Podcast, in my opinion. You guys should check that out. It's very interesting. He has very interesting insights. Even the questions they said you should ask your woman before you get married. Not what are your views on finances. They said, do you have any pacts, any prior pacts with demons? The powers and principalities. Do you have any agreements I must know about? Am I going to sacrifice my first child? Powers and principalities. No, it's crazy. It's crazy out there. Okay, but for our topic for the day today, brings us into our topic for the day. That was just a little bit of a catch up. But our topic for the day, we're going to talk about basically sharing of financial responsibilities in relationships. You know that saying, we're all very familiar with that saying, his money is our money, her money is her money. So if it's a woman who's saying it, she'll say, your money is our money, my money is my money. As men, we can't even say that. I'll just start saying, my money is my money. She'll look at you. So am I going to buy the earrings myself? Or because what do you mean your money is your money? Who is going to pay for these earrings that I just picked out without asking you? So we're going to talk about sharing of financial, the responsibility of finances in relationships, because I think a lot of people find that to be one of those areas in relationships of a lot of disagreement, right? A lot of people agree on majority of other things. When we should have kids, how many kids should we have? Which schools should they go to? What is our views on religion? What are the views on parenting? What are the views? Even if you're not gotten to the stage yet, but as you're getting there, there's so many things that are very easy for people to agree on. But finances, for some reason, finances is where people draw the line. You can check my phone, check my WhatsApp, find out if I'm cheating on you. Don't ever check my bank account. Don't check the Absa app. Why do you want to see what I'm making? So, maybe just to start us off a little bit, like a little bit of a preamble. Where did this dynamic come from? The dynamic of, her money is her money, his money is their money or our money. Where did this dynamic come from? Like, why is it more culturally accepted for a man's money to be communal, but for a woman's money to remain hers? Right? She wants to fight. Where did that dynamic start from? Is it something that has been ingrained in us from the start? Is it something that has become more popular as cultures have changed and as we have evolved as human beings? Or is it just one of those things that, from time immemorial has been a thing and will always be a thing? So why is it okay for a man's money to be communal, but for her money to be hers? Where did that dynamic start from?
Well, I think way back, because traditionally religious ways and all aspects of life, it is like that. First of all, if we go religious way, a man is the backbone of a family, So a lady is a recipient, So a man has to provide. Also, when you go to our cultures and traditions, that's how things have been, set. So that means that currently, in the current world, I believe that his money is our money as a family. But me as a lady, I'm not obliged that I have to share every penny that I have with the family, though it comes to understanding between the two of you how you're going to handle your financial matters and aspects and all that. That's what I think.
Do you think that that precedent is set from the time you decide, okay, I'm going to be with this person? Do you think it is up to you as partners in this relationship to dictate from the start how your views and values towards financial responsibility is going to be, or is that something that comes up as you go along?
Now, I think 90% it's something that comes along, because most of the people, they get their relationships out of situationships in Uganda. So I think as you cohabit and try to see the depth of the waters, that's when you're like, hey, we're already here. And then along the way, you figure it out. But you don't sit down on a round table and like, you know what, we are planning on getting a little babysitter. What are we going to do? I think it's something you adapt along the way.
Okay.
And like, unless those few are families that they came together before situations forced them to be together. Yeah.
Rona has something to say. She's hiya.
I think I've not forgotten. So most of the things we deal with today in life are systems in regards to, let's not run away from it, power. Yes? So the systems we are calling traditions, the systems we are calling religion, the systems, whatever system we are talking about, comes back down to one thing and one thing most of the time. power. We don't know who set the systems. We were not there, but the system is there. And I think it came from a point of streamlining and making, direct or whose role is what role. Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes these things backfire. Morris, I'm looking at you. When she talked about the man has to provide, she said, you see, I'll come and tell you, I am the leader. I'm supposed to decide what happens. I'm supposed to what. Then one day everyone at home sits and waits for you to decide. You get what I'm trying to say? Then you come back and say, but why aren't you people contributing to, to the decision making?
Yeah.
So I think the thing though is that times are changed, and then we sort of interpret the things the way we want them to suit our narrative. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But for me, I would say why we are here of his money is our money, my money is my money. The system backfired. Because if you're telling me and we're grooming kids, we are putting pressure on young boys to, you should make this kind, you're head of a family, you should be able to this, all that sort of thing. He's going to grow up knowing, okay, fine, I am the provider, I'm going to, that's why some of them even are like, already set, it's engraved in our minds. The young boys, even by the time you were an adult, you already knew that's what you're getting into, Though it becomes hectic, I like that this generation, people speak up, we have these conversations. So you're going to grow up knowing, as a man, I am going to have to provide. So whatever kind of job you have, chances are, you won't even have a little bit of that to sort of grow yourself as well. However, me who you've also told that I am meant to be provided for, I'm not going to find the need. That is why usually you see, and I'm not speaking out of, sometimes we shall deliberately sit and wait for you to do it. You get what I'm saying, eh? Because you've told me that if I dare come in, because the times have changed, that's why I'm saying we are choosing to stay in the narrative we are comfortable with. Yeah. Because the times have changed, If anything, the times have not changed. We are going backward. Because there was a time when, for me, what I call true traditional, our African ways or our ways, we actually used to share work 50-50. You do realize. Where if this one went to the farm, the other one went to hunt, this one was building the hut, the other one helped with the straw. You get. Today we have overly drawn the line. We are stressing ourselves for nothing because it's no longer a family then. Akasenta akangi, and I'm waiting for the man, school fees. I sit down, akasenta kangi katu dewali. I'm still hurting my own. Yeah. Like for example, your children. You're not going. They wait for the man to go to work, then they buy the meat. What is that?
Okay, but now
so
actually,
it comes from the system, in my understanding, but the system has backfired.
So the system has backfired. Okay, good. We're going to. There's an important point you made about money and power. I'll come back to that. But as you were speaking and you're talking about systems, and everyone has spoken about systems today. It's either cultural systems or societal systems, but generally about systems. As you've again mentioned, way back in the day, society used to be more egalitarian, where roles were equally shared, right? Where the men went out to hunt and the women stayed home and took care of the kids. And in some societies, it was even swapped. Do you think that somehow the oppression of women much later, and I'm not saying oppression as a big word, but for lack of a better word, you remember there was a period where women were not allowed to work, women were not allowed to vote, women were not allowed to own property. Do you think that period also shaped our current thinking in terms of financial responsibility in relationships? Because remember, back in the day, the men provided because they had no choice. Is your woman is not working, okay? You've brought her specifically to stay at home and push babies out. Right? So she's not working. So do you think that period shaped our mindset in terms of financial responsibility in relationship where, okay, since I do not have the opportunity to make my own money, I'm now going to rely on this gentleman to help me uplift either myself and my family, but on their terms? Do you think that played a big role in how we perceive financial responsibility in relationships?
Yes. And that is because I think we are looking at the 60s as the most recent. Because the 20s were something else. The women were out and about. The men were not feeling like, they were left out as well. Today we're having these issues because we leaned into something. And like I said, the system has backfired. it's more 50s and 60s because it comes back to power and control. It could be any of us. There was a time when also women were deliberately shrinking, the men in the society. I think then the men fought, then we are back here. It was the matriarchy. We're going to keep going back and forth.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yes. So for us who are here, we are thinking we are fighting patriarchy. Someone fought matriarchy. But I think because it is so close it's the 50s and 60s are not so far. And that is the closest to history that we most can relate to. You get?
Yeah.
So that time when a lot changed, there was a lot more marketing, for a lack of better word, that is pushing for a good woman is supposed to sit home and take care of the kids. So these men, a woman who could have helped, probably. That's what I'm saying, the times have changed. But I think even us, we are comfortable, no? You're like, you keep bringing. It's okay.
It's money.
That is how we are in bring and then I keep. But back then, we didn't have anything to keep. It made sense. And the system set, however, backfired because in these changing times where you're going to go to work and he's also going to go to work, what has failed you people to agree and say, this household, okay, maybe I'm just assuming it's not something you think of, account for not to take care of, for the children, for the that, for the this, for the that. You get what I'm trying to say?
We're going to
Then
come back to shared accounts.
Then we're also, unfortunately, having the other version of men who are sticking to the provider. You get? Whereby, even if you're both working, you come back and he will not even help you carry a cup from there. So some of these things are rebellions at the same time. We are going back and forth to And for most women, I will tell you, it is a backup plan.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, and you know this, even yourselves, you'll tell your daughters, have a backup plan. What do I count correct? Because for most women, it's a backup plan. Unfortunately, it's different for the men, Bambi. But some men have secret accounts.
We're going to actually talk about secret accounts. Now, before we proceed, allow me to again send a special shout out to the Barrow House, the unofficial home of the Kara Junkies. We're about to sign a memorandum of understanding, don't worry, for giving us the space and the room to express ourselves. We cannot be more, I don't think we have the words to express our gratitude. So, yeah, thank you so much to the Barrow House and one of the most outspoken women that we know of. She has very many names. We call her Minister of Enjoyment. Okay, so she's brought up a few ideas that I've really loved, but let's go back to the aspect of power and money, right? Society has always shown that the person with the most money sometimes has the most power, or most of the time has the most power, right? So I'd just like to ask in relation to relationships, whether you're married, whether you have a girlfriend, whether you're cohabiting, whether you are engaged, you're engaged for 1.5 years, then your woman introduces and the pictures, there's a different man. The stories, these things. So, any kind of relationship that you're with, as long as you've decided to share your life in some way, shape or form with someone, does financial contribution is it directly tied to control or power in the relationship? Like, does the person who earns more automatically get the most say in a relationship?
Yes. Good evening to you all. My name is Survivor Renetwe, and I'm very happy to be on the
Talk Track
podcast. Yeah. So when it comes back to money and who earns more money and who owns more power within the relationship. So let me take you back to one of these movies, which is called Crazy Rich Asians. If any one of you has watched Crazy Rich Asians, you must know that very rich family where the lady was married the guy, but then later the guy ended up cheating on her with a different woman. And part of the reason for him cheating was he didn't feel like he was an equal anymore. Yeah.
That was specifically because the woman came from a very rich family, so she had more money than him.
So she had more money.
Yeah.
So when we are to tie this to the discussion today, I think we look at it in terms of it's he who has the gold owns the what? The shots. So if you have more gold, you call more shots. So at the end of the day, we cannot run away from it. No matter how much we want to look at it within the moral aspect, we cannot run away from the fact that mentally, when someone has more money than you, they will always trump over you in whatever decisions you make. Mm-hmm. So if at all the lady is earning more, somehow psychologically as a man, you will always feel less of a man. Now, I'll give an example of a friend of mine. he's in Bara, but he married a woman who had a degree, bachelor's degree. Then for him, he had only done a diploma. But somehow he felt the urge to continue and just do a bachelor's degree without the necessity of using it within the field, simply because he wanted to feel either equal or above her, but at the very least equal. But then that still goes back to the psychological effect that when one earns more than you, they will always be higher than you. So I believe when it comes to a relationship, it always comes down to the mental aspect. But then again, the mental aspect is very hard to achieve, considering that money is a very crazy animal.
One day you have it, one day you don't.
Exactly. Because when money talks, everything else works. Be it integrity, be it your mental sobriety, or anything. So, like you said, the answer would be, if the lady earns more, no matter how much as a man you want to flex your muscles, you will always at a certain point feel less than her. She will do something that you will eventually, even if it's with the intention of oppressing you, you'll eventually feel oppressed, and somehow you will fight back as a man to try and gain your control. Exactly.
Speaking of, actually, it's good we've had it from a man's perspective. I also want to hear it from a woman's perspective. Oh, yeah, let's first hear from him, yeah.
Thank you. Jonathan Msenza is my name. Thanks to TTP, that's Talk Track Podcast.
We have a new one, TTP. Have you heard? TTP.
Yeah. To me, I would say families, they're like governments. Each government has its constitution, and that's the constitution we are supposed to follow. When we talk about money, let us first know the roles we are supposed to play in a family. It's not all about money. Let us first focus on other things before we bring in money. Money can settle anything, but to me, I say, let us first reconcile our money. Like, for example, let us talk about the money that we have, how we are going to plan for it, what we expect to do with that money. But you'll never find a family where you're earning the same amount. No. Even if you're in the same business or the same workplace, holding the same qualifications, one of you is going to have more money than the other.
Yeah.
Because this runs from very many genres. So to me, I say, let us first focus on the roles that we have in the families before we bring in money issues. Yeah, that's what I have to take for this.
Money should not be like a complete driving factor.
True.
It should not be that thing that determines how your relationship, whether it's long-term or short-term, runs.
Yes.
There is something always bigger than money that is defined by the roles played by the people in relationships.
Yeah, I remember we had a conversation, and one of my friends was like, women need money. I was like, yes, they need money. Why don't they get married to the banks? Because that's where money is. They still have to come to men. Because, it's supposed to be man to woman. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah.
Yes, my name is Abraham, and I'm happy to be here. Before I do submit, I was joking with my friend here that finally you're going to be on TV. Unfortunately for him, I will say it before. So allow me to send my regards to my beautiful wife back at home if she does watch this.
Yes.
Yeah. So and to say I love you very much.
Who makes the most money?
Now there is where I am coming. Who makes the most money, and who has the most power? You know, there's a time when my wife was making more money than I was making. I can say at that time maybe I was making about 20%, and she was making 80%. But there is no single time when I felt like she was holding much more power than I was holding.
Equality.
Now,
Equality.
Right now,
Equality.
I might be making more money than she is making. And there is no time when I feel like I am holding much more power than she is. She mentioned about, in the previous, as she was submitting, she talked about biblical and then culture. Now, for me, I want to talk about the biblical. Biblically wise, when you two get married, you're one. So the moment you become one, you cease to have one who is higher and one who is lower.
Uh-huh.
Now, I might be making more money, and I want to assume that I have more power. And yes, I am making more money. But then, there are three stages. There is the making of the money, and then there is the keeping of the money, and the growing of the money.
Kangamwao.
You get it?
First give them again. There is the making of the money. I'm writing it down. Okay. Uh-huh.
And then there is the keeping of the money.
Uh-huh.
And then there is growing the money.
The acronym, ladies and gentlemen, is MKG. I repeat, MKG.
So I might be making this lots of money, and I want to hold the power. And yet that is the most insignificant of the three. And yet she is good at keeping the money and growing it. So now, if I am making more money and she's good at keeping it and investing it to make more money, if we come together and we're not looking at who is holding more power, then we are going to grow much, much more than when I am looking at, hey, I'm the man and I'm making more money. I'm making 5M a month, and then you're making 500,000. You're going to lose it out as a family. Because in the end, she mentioned something very profound. You're a family and there are these children. So you should look at these ones here. I think that's my submission.
Yeah, that's lovely. But now, before you hand over the microphone, no, there is something that you mentioned. There is a way I think you and your wife have attained a certain level of equality and understanding, especially when it comes to shared financial responsibilities. Briefly, how did you, in your experience, how did you get to that point?
How did we get to that point? There's a time when we had money, and unfortunately, like most of us maybe around here, we blew it. And we went back to Dame Zero.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had to, one, accept the situation where we were in, and then expose ourselves to learning. Some of the spaces that we went to were business coaching environments where we learned how to manage our money. Currently, before even we receive the money, we know where the money is going.
Is going, yeah.
So she mentioned, why don't you have an account where the children's fees is being deposited?
Yeah.
Like we have all that. We have the children's account. We have the giving account where we shall give to Zara, maybe if she's having a birthday for the son, and we give her. So all the money is stipulated onto where it is
going, yeah.
In a month, if I have made maybe 5M, she will know that I've made 5M. And then from that 5M, I'll get a salary for myself. If she has made 1 million, she will bring it 1 million. I've made 1 million a month, and then she'll have a 10% salary for herself. And then we shall distribute it. So I don't look into her salary on the 10%. She doesn't look on my 10% of a salary from the business earnings.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the salary I'm getting from work.
Yeah.
But this is we've gotten maybe like 5 million. That's my salary. But from that 5 million,
there is something for you.
a salary for me.
Okay.
Because I earned it. And then from her 1 million or maybe for 2 million, she has a salary which I will not look into how she's spending it.
Yeah.
And then we have a 15% which goes to the children's school fees.
Okay.
And then we shall have a 20% that goes back to investments. And then we shall have a percent that goes to giving to our friends and maybe family. So that's how we've reached there.
Okay. People. Relationship coach huyo. For more information, check out the talk track at Talk Track UG. We'll put Abraham's contacts there. We shall not, but if you want to look for him, come to Barrow House. All right, but speaking of that, and again, you can start from this and then also give your submission. From that, there is, I think, two aspects that you've incorporated where you, in one way, shape or form, you have separate financial lives in terms of that salary I get from what I'm contributing, right? That's mine, right? You have separate financial lives, and then you also get to a point where you seem to have merged your financial lives. So my question from that is that is it necessary for, especially when you're in a relationship, for as a party to have separate financial lives? Or is it absolutely necessary for you to have conjoined financial lives? Like a lot of people are going into joint accounts and all that. So is it necessary for you to have my account and her account, and then we come together on a table and discuss that? Or must you have, like a joint account for, things to keep moving? So is it financial independence from each other, financial separate lives, or do the lives have to be, She needs to know where the money is coming from, how it is going, whether the side chick is getting money or not.
Actually, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Concerning the question, marriage or a relationship is between two people. So it's upon you, the husband and the wife, to decide whether you can have a combined account or each can have their own account. You may know that maybe she's working from a distant place than you. So it may be difficult for her or for the two of you to have the combined one.
Uh-huh.
But as you sit down together with her or with him and you discuss about the outcomes, then you can have one which is combined.
Okay.
Yeah,
but is it like, is there at any one point in time where it becomes necessary for you to have joint financial lives?
Yeah, it may come because the choices that we make determine our destination.
Mm-hmm.
You may look at her, and if I make a joint account with her, after 10 years, we shall do something that will be better. But still on the other side, because it's a matter of making risks.
Yeah.
Okay, you can decide to say that if I've ever given her maybe 1M, then at the end of the month when I ask it about the 1M, she had spent it doing her own stuff. So automatically there, you know that if I make a joint account with her, things may not work up the way I expect them to be.
Actually, yeah. Now, speaking on that, and I would like to build from that, right? But before we build, the Kara Junkies, as you see, who host the Talk Track, also have a series of events that run in Ginger. Every Wednesday, we're at the Bourbon for the quiz. Every Thursday, still at the Bourbon for open mic karaoke. Every Friday, we're at the Barra House, unofficial home of the Kara Junkies, for Retro Fridays. They vary depending on our mood. We can decide to do Retro Friday, or we can decide to do Drag and Drop Friday, where we use amateur DJs. For all intents and purposes, I'm that amateur DJ. Saturdays, we have a queue list. You get to choose your own music. And then Sundays, every Sunday, we're here for this. It's a kind of a wind down for the week, Start your week with good conversation, end your week after a serious party with good conversation. Now, speaking of, what does refusal... Okay, let's not call it refusal. If you, or if as a party, let's say as a couple or as a relationship, you decide against financial transparency, right? And this is not like, we've sat down, I've decided I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. But people just feel more comfortable in this relationship, keeping their financial lives independent. Does that in any way speak to the health of these relationships, right? That is to say, do couples that have shared financial responsibilities, are they more likely to last longer in their relationships as opposed to couples who keep those parts of themselves separate? So does shared financial responsibility equal a healthier relationship?
Actually, sharing financial relationship with your partner can make marriage live longer. Because the more the woman thinks of divorcing, she's like, I have 5 million on the account, so for the sake of keeping friendship in the marriage. So
the people, they have just said that you stay in those things for the money. To put it simply, they have said you stay in these things for the money.
Stay in the marriage. In addition to say that I'm here because of children, she may also add on that I'm here because of children and the money that you have in that account.
Zahara wants to say something.
Now, when it comes to financial transparency, as you're choosing to have joint accounts or not, do you also sit down and talk about if the worst comes? because of course we all look at happy endings, but me, I'm open to anything. Amore is ready for anything. Yeah, that's the truth. So now, when you're discussing about having a joint account, do you ever talk about what happens if things go wrong? How will you split your savings or investments or all that? And actually, I think one of the reasons why when things fail in the future for some families, people end up killing themselves and also maybe doing the worst, not even considering about the children they've bared throughout the course of their lifetime, because finance and money is healthy, but it is evil at the same time. So
Come again?
money
Yes,
is evil. It's healthy but evil at the same time. If I know that supposing my husband he has been making more money than me, but even though that day we are separating, I would want to have the biggest share. I need the money, I need this, I need that. It's all about I, and the we is out of the picture. So now, I believe if you have accounts for something that is uniting the family, for example, school fees for the children and all that, that is okay. But as individuals of sound mind, you're able to make your money and spend it or grow it and all that, because it will deter us from having death and other crazy things happening in the world. Maybe that's what I think.
Do you know what someone said one time? Someone one time asked me a question. We were having a conversation, and he was really dumbfounded. He had just been dumped. Eh? People are often, they are very wise when they have just been dumped. Very, very wise. And he was having this conversation with me, and he kept saying, that saying of love is blind, love is blind, love is blind. And I was like, guys, if love is blind, why can't it just also be budget conscious? Like, can't it be budget conscious? You saw me, you didn't see my bank account, you love me for me, you'll be budget conscious. So, it often, conversations like that, raise a lot of questions in our heads, right? Because really, if love is blind, as they say, you've chosen to be with this person, does their financial status matter? Yes. In one way, shape, or form, right? So is love blind or it is budget conscious? Which of the two?
You guys, that's yes. Was
It came with such vehemence from your soul.
Here's the thing. It's important, and that's the issue we have. But even as human beings, for some reason, we have not gone through some sort of teachable moments on finances. You see, some people can't even manage their own finances. Imagine you're now two people, and it's not for some reason. I use the word culture not as tribe or how we work the way of life. I mean, a culture in a sense of how we are currently doing things.
Yeah.
Yes. So we don't have the culture to engage in financial discussions already. You get? So when two people meet, this love thing ends here like this, eh? When you start having the kids, when you start wanting to have that home, you should
budget conscious.
Food, light.
Light.
Your water bills. Now the kids come in, Pampers are not cheap, you guys. So I think even nappies you go to. But like what I'm saying is, I'm not saying you should, even the person who may not necessarily have the kind of money like the next person does. I think financial discipline in itself involves having the conversation. So before you say, I want to have that child, let's start the home. You need to know that when you get down that road, that is why fathers back in the day, gentlemen, we have replaced money with maybe land. When our great, they would even tell their sons, if you do not have land, you are not worthy of marrying someone's. Because it is beyond you two. It's not about you and her or her and you anymore. The moment you say, now we've gotten into the family, because you're going to marry, chances are, of course, you probably have, these days things are funny. People marry and say, I don't want kids. But anyway, chances are you're going to have a family, no? So it is beyond you. This money, even you as a father, and your daughter brings for you a guy who can hardly scrape for a meal, you will tell her, Nyabo, Chichi, even you, the father, will not want your daughter. You understand?
Yeah.
To be with a man who will not take care of her and his children, or his and her children.
Yeah.
Because when we're looking at money, maybe because of the dating scene and life, that is just sample. The real hard thing is when you get into it long term. Because like I said, it's going to be beyond the two of you. All of you are going to be stressed, thinking that you're very dechi, thinking that now we have to what? You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So I think in terms of money, when I said money is important, that is the culture we need. And I think we need to start from a certain, like with our children, yeah? It is important to discuss money. Where your child throws a tantrum, falls there because you've told them you're not buying Spider-Man, Smanya, what? You tell them, let me tell you, there's a way you can have those conversations. You understand, eh? So that they know money you just don't get and then.
Yeah.
So when we develop the culture to talk about, and that's why most of us in relationships get to have problems. We don't have the culture to discuss and talk about it. We reach there, I am hiding, you're hiding. Then again, you know?
Why are we hiding? Why are we hiding? Don't hide.
I thought you wanted to go next, but picking up from your question, is money important, right? There's a saying, I've forgotten who said it, that if you leave Jonathan, who has a vision, and go for Abraham, who has the money, after a few years, you will watch Jonathan on TV that Abraham bought. but unfortunately, you will not have what to eat at home. So for me, for my daughter that I love very much, yes, money is that much important, but I would sit down with her and advise her to go for Jonathan, who has a big vision. Yeah, I'm not saying that I know Jonathan has a vision, but I would encourage her to look for a man with a vision.
I would also like to ask Jonathan. Jonathan, do you have the vision or you're already in the vision?
Thank you. A vision, I have.
Aha.
Yes.
Abraham, you're about to buy a TV.
And let me ask the man on the camera to focus on the lady in the red, the one putting on bulls. Yes, that's my beautiful wife. Yes, and I moved with her today. Money and leadership and everything rotates at between the two people who are in marriage. Yes, I remember there is a time when we were still in courtship. I went to visit her, but I just found out that whatever I was putting on that day, it was bought by her. And I was like, wow.
That is when he knew.
If someone can put in you money, like whatever you're putting on a debt has been bought by that person. I was like, no, this is beyond money. Yes.
Okay. But it's not budget conscious. We have the mic here.
Yeah, so I say here, we need to have, yes, a joint account for the family, but...
And for see her, if she's nodding her head, yes. Or her see.
But as a man and a lady, we have to know our responsibilities.
Yeah.
And remember, as I was starting, I said, for the TTP.
Let me first write it down.
These are some of the things we are supposed to be doing here and there. For all of us to know, understand, pick a leaf know what is happening here and there.
Yeah.
In that you can emulate and borrow, put it in where you are.
Yeah.
These are just governments. And in these governments, there are constitutions. And you have to know what to add in the constitution and what to remove after seeing how your friends are doing it.
Yeah.
But here I say, let us go for the good vices. Do not borrow everything from your friends, from what you've heard on TV, what you've seen with your eyes. Because at times there is what we call masking. I can tell you that this is what happens at my home, but when it's not what is happening.
Social media.
Yeah, it can be social media.
Yeah, that
And,
one.
Someone can be like, let us go home, beat our wives. For him, he's not going to beat the wife. For you guys, you go home, you cause havoc, beat them.
Wake up in police when he's outside. He's the one bailing you
I have
out.
a friend who always says, whenever we are out like this, he's like, Jonathan, we are going home alone. I'll be on the gate knocking, you'll be on your door knocking. When they open for you the door, the reception is
It's
different.
going to be different, yes.
It's going to be different.
Yeah.
So we are moving, and when we go home, let us go and find what is at home. The way we are going to find it, that's where we are going to start from.
Yeah, Temwekoza. That is, put it plainly. Someone had something to say?
Okay, well, me, I'll not deter from saying that situations lead people into relationships. Now, at the point of discussing finances and all that, you can't just bump into someone, you're still in courtship, and you're like,
I need your bank statements from June to August.
you know,
What are your monthly expectations?
yeah. So, as I said, I think we should take it a step at a time, you know. So let's get into relationships, and if you see that there is vision where you are, then try to start having such conversations. And then, of course, some things, like the way Abraham said it, you learn on job, you know. Before you blow out your account, you don't know how best you can manage it. Even if someone came here and sat us down the whole day telling us how to manage the finances, trust me, if you've not walked the talk, you'll not really be able to manage it. Now, my point is that as a couple, to avoid domestic violence and all that, there are some things I think which need to be kept private. Not everything put it on the table, especially finances, because people within Uganda and outside Uganda, people have killed each other just because they want to take over their assets and all that, you know. So share what you are able to share for purposes of your peace of.
Zahara has said, don't kill your partners because of money.
Yes. Now, yes, I'm going to pick it up from where Zahara ended. Yes. These days they are saying if you have a lady and that lady is from Kamuri, you do not have to be very open. Because in Kamuri, the ladies these days, there is a mechanism they are using.
I am worried.
If they don't cut you when you're seeing, they have to wait for you to sleep. Now, you have a lady from Kamuri, you go home, you've started confessing, I have this money, and I've moved outside, I've gotten a kid. So she can be like, okay, these are some of the things which are making you go this direction. They can cut off their things and you.
Women from Kamuli out here catching strays. Okay, so our last two submissions before we close it out for the night.
All right, thank you very much. Now, when it comes to relationships and finances, I think what I am trying to do here is expound more on the subject matter.
First, wait. This man is a lawyer. Expound more on the subject matter. None of you has used those three words in the same sentence.
Apologies. Yeah, well, when we look at finance, the financial aspect of it, we don't only look at the money entering in. We can also look at the money getting out and maybe the debt you have. Now, she mentioned something that is so true and to the current generation, the Gen Zs, if I may call it that, whereby before you get into a relationship, it starts with a situationship. Yeah. I think it used to be called courtship in the years back. So now it's more of situationship, though at an elevated level. Well, we shall not go into the specifics of what happens within that situationship, right?
No.
But-
No. My mother watches this.
So does my girlfriend. So sticking to what we are looking at here. Now, at times when you give out so much information, say like how much debt you have or how many businesses you're investing in, or say what the expenses are. Now, there are two things we can look at. One, on the good side, is that when you mention that debt burden that you do have within the moment, based on the businesses you're doing and the aspirations you do have, then secondly, if you do tell her that you have a lot of expenses, she would probably help you figure out how to taper them down in order to reduce on the debt burden and maybe build the family. Secondly, which is the unfortunate bit, she may be in the sort of mindset of kamfuneche nsobola ofuna kati muveeko nze nziruke. So she's like, this guy is probably destined for doom.
Mamanze.
Now, because, you know, sometimes when you're looking at the balance sheet, for those who have done business, when you go to the bank and you get your balance sheet and you look at this side, which is maybe the debt part,
Yeah.
credit, and then the debit
Yeah.
part, at times it's worrying. Yeah. So when you get to diverge that kind of information and then you give it to the lady, at times she may not get, which goes back to the question you had asked earlier.
Yeah.
Is money important in a relationship? Whereby, how I understood it is, does the lady herself understand money as a storage of value? Or does she just understand it as something that is just meant to be spent? I had a conversation with a friend of mine last week. We were having a long one, and then I mentioned to him, and I'm like, we live most of our life, ever since we were born till we are the age we are at and beyond, looking for money. He had to correct me and say, it's not the money we are looking for, it's the value we are looking for.
Wow.
So, which is why I think it draws back to what the gentleman said. Three things: making money, keeping the money, and growing the money. Which leads us back to value within a relationship.
Yeah.
What value does she have, or what value does the guy have? And at the end of the day, that helps you determine whether you should give more information on your financial status or not.
Uh-huh. You're closing us out, by the way.
Yes, I have something to say. See, when you say that will determine, here's the thing. I think that is why most people don't wake up today and tomorrow they are married. Okay? For most people, you're going to date someone or court them for a while. Now, when you reach at a stage of decision making, is this going to be my long life partner? That's the part I was talking about.
Yeah.
Where conversations about finances are important. Now, it depends on where you're from in terms of experiences, maybe culture, maybe what. And most of us, as Africans, we find that direct conversations about money sometimes are seen as maybe rude or very, uncalled for. So because of who we are as people out there, they are checking people's what? Before they even date you, before they start marrying you, they need to know.
Background check.
Have you? How many times have you got loans? I forget what it's called.
More cash.
No. Your credit
Credits.
history. You
Oh, yeah, your
understand?
credit score and stuff.
Your credit score. So at the end, I think it also comes from us as people that we find it very rude. So that's why I come and tell you, Banango, mpa ukachai. I will not directly tell you why you're trying. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So at the point where we are not talking about these things of here and there, we are talking, you have decided to be with someone.
Yeah.
Guys, this is a conversation that is why we are having it actually, because we never have it. When you say, I am deciding to be with this woman, you have decided that in the future, if she has come to run, you made the choice. Even the woman, when she says, I think as a woman, if I feel like I'm not going to bother.
Yeah.
We are in an era where we have the chance to date and know people. Sometimes I know it's not as easy as I'm saying it. But I mean, in terms of I've decided to marry her, she has decided to marry me. I feel like we need to get to a point. I know it's because probably our cultures and what we need. That's where that conversation needs to happen now.
Okay.
Of okay, now we are going to get married, or we have decided to do this, or blah blah blah. Before people propose after they've discussed, it doesn't just happen. Or someone gives you hints. It's slowly, you see, we start talking about certain things that you're like, it's not in dating realm. So I think it's important to have those conversations before you actually get into it. Because the money we are talking about is not the money of quarter cash. We are talking about the money in terms of sustainability, and that comes in with the keeping and making it. So in the end, Havana, renting, do you have plans of digging your own food or buying it? We need to look at Embera. Do we get a smaller place to sustain? Because that's the money now we are talking about.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm telling you. If you choose to keep, it's different for people. Like you said, it's different. And I think for every party, the man is protecting himself, the woman is protecting herself. So if you both think it is necessary, yet you have decided to take on that role. As human beings, we always have a doubt in the next person somehow.
Yeah.
So that money that you're getting and saying, let me not tell him about this account. The woman is saying, oh, why, guys, okay, rakumata ina abana basatu edi, naande kawo sina wenkolachi. Wentandikira kati yako ka bank account kenkwese. Kekanta over the man has, God forbid, passed on. These families of ours, they can remember when we are here. When the man is gone, so the woman will hide, and I've seen the women, they collect their money, they build apartments in Agamba. Oh, why? Even the man is saying, "Ono mukazi wajanga," like that agenda.
Yeah.
So everyone is trying to protect themselves, which I would advise by them.
Okay.
You get, for both the man and the woman, because like we said, when the things go bad, you see this friendship, when you're there and you're happy. Yeah?
Hallelujah. Okay. So usually what we do is when the conversation is this interesting, we have what we call after the talk track. Now what happens after the talk track is we continue the conversation, it's just that it's not being recorded. Yeah? You wanted to say something? Final deliberation.
Okay. All I could say, let's just make money.
Make money. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of today's episode of the Talk Track. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Make money. We close it out with making money. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. It's been a pleasure. We'll catch you again next Sunday. My name is Roy. The Talk Track is an independent production of the Kara Junkies. It's produced, edited, sound mixed, and shot by Morris. And you can check us out on YouTube at Talk Track UG. And you can also check us out on our socials on Instagram, right? With that being said, so we have said everything, we have talked everything, but at the end, colleagues, make money. Have a good night. We'll see you all next Sunday. Peace out.